Well, hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome
Good afternoon.
to our 2024 State of the Stitch People address. It's been a second since we got together to talk about Stitch People and where we are and where we're going. What?
Gonna grab my iPad for easier comment.
Oh, for comment management. Excellent. Hello to friends on Instagram watching and hello to friends on Facebook watching. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Saturday, January 13th. It's already mid-January. So that's crazy. Um, Spencer's getting an iPad so that we can better and more easily respond to comments, but we thought we'd just pop on and say hello. We've got some new friends and faces in the Stitch People community on Facebook and following us on Instagram. We've got some new Stitchers from the holiday season and just kind of wanted to say welcome and reintroduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about what we have planned for this year. So I'm Lizzie and this is Spencer, and we started Stitch People back in 2011. Christmas 2011, the first Stitch People portrait was given as a gift. And I think that's the year we also registered stitchpeople.com. Was that December?
I think so.
And
Yeah.
so we had those were gifted to family, and then friends were like, "Hey, stitch me some of those." And then we thought we could sell these, and then we started selling them through a really cool website called Uncommon Goods. It's like a curated Etsy. Highly recommend checking them out. And then we started noticing on social media that people were liking the portraits and wanted to learn how to do them themselves. And we're really excited by it. So we thought, okay, we could teach you. So we wrote Do It Yourself Stitch People. That was released in 2014, was our first iteration of that. And I truly thought that would be it. I was like, well, I'll teach you how, and here's some patterns to get you started. And then people wanted police uniforms and
Animals.
and religious and cultural wear and sports, and here we are in 2024 and we're still going, which is crazy. So that's kind of a just brief history. In 2017 we hired our first team members. It's only ever just been Spencer and I, and it was super part-time up until 2016-ish is when I went more full-time with it. I had another part-time job too, but 2017 you went full-time? Or
Yeah, I
2016?
think 2017, I think it was.
2017. And that's when we hired some help. That's when we brought on Julian and Teresa, who helped make Stitch People what it is today. Teresa helped us with customer service for years and years. She is the author of Hand Stitched House over at the Monsters Lounge. And we would not be what we are without Teresa and Julian, who helped design. Julian was our design assistant. We were getting so many requests for patterns that I couldn't do them all myself, along with classes and events and all that kind of stuff. So Julian has done a ton of the patterns that you know and love. And yeah, without them, we would not be here. In 2020, we had our first in-person event, which was so fun. Betsy Weiniger and Melissa Vono taught for us, and we had a cool
Hi, Betsy. Hi,
panel.
Melissa, if you're on.
And we had a bunch of people here to Utah, where we're based, and we were gonna do more live events. We thought 2020 was the perfect year to do it.
Huzzah.
We were surprised with the rest of the world. But we started doing more online classes and events in 2020, and that's when our Spring Fling started. And I guess our first Spring Fling must have been 2021, huh?
Yeah, no, our
Yeah,
first
first
one was
Spring Fling.
the virtual gathering.
We did the virtual gathering in the fall of 2020. We did our Spring Fling, and we started doing the holiday events and the hand stitched house events, and we've been doing lots more online classes and events ever since. So that's kind of where we started and where we're at. Our Stitch People community, all of you have always been some of the best part of Stitch People, growing and learning and sharing and supporting together, which is the best way that collaboration is the best way that art comes about, in my opinion. So thank you all for your support over the years, and hello to all of you new friends and faces, and hopefully you know us a little bit better now. The sad reality of life and growth and birth and death and rebirth is that in, I guess, this past year, 2023, an interesting thing happened with the crafting economy generally. And this is across all crafting. We've got friends, even at Joann's and bigger crafting companies. And everybody stayed home in 2020 and was crafting and was getting crafty and trying new things. And then in 2021, and ever since, crafting has just gone. And so, unfortunately, that combined with just general economic woes, ever since summer of last year, we are back to a 2-person team, and we had to say farewell to Teresa and Julian, just because we could no longer keep them on. And so that has changed things definitely around Stitch People. It's just me and Spencer now. So I'm doing all the custom orders, all the designing, all the patterns, all the creative production, and Spencer's doing all the back end, all the customer service, all the website stuff. And it's just us solo now, managing it all. So sometimes we get people making comments like, "Oh, it's always fun to interface with such a big company," and we're not. It's just the two of us. I have a background in graphic design, so I can make our books look like they belong on the shelves of a Barnes and Noble. But we are, in fact, just a 2-person teeny tiny baby company. That said, we did release our first officially published book last year, just a few months ago. Customize Your Cross Stitch, Friends and Family, with Quarto Books. I don't have one nearby or handy. But we had a lot of great sample stitchers help us out with that. And once again, that community influence. Julian helped design those patterns, and we had sample stitchers help us get some great samples for that. And I think so far so good on that book, and that is available at Target and Barnes and Noble and all of that, which is crazy and really, really fun. And so we're hoping to continue to grow the Stitch People community that way as well. So that's just, our brief history of Stitch People for those who've never been around or don't know us or whatnot.
I know that you didn't want to make it a state of Spencer and Lizzie, but I do want to delve into some of the other things that we've been working on, because I think it lends context to Stitch People.
Yes, it does.
Over the last few years.
Like moving and acquiring other companies.
Yeah, so along that journey of kind of growing Stitch People organically and then hitting a huge pandemic bust, back in 2017 when we first brought on Teresa and Julian, we at around the same time we moved from Utah to California, and the idea was that Lizzie wanted to pursue more acting and I just wanted to be in warmer weather. So we packed up our stuff and we rented out our house and we went to Anaheim, and it was great. It was lovely. We loved Anaheim, Southern California.
I took a lot of great improv classes up in LA.
Still want to go back. With all the snow that we have in Utah right now, I especially want to be in Southern California right now. But we, as we were living there, Lizzie's aunt worked for a puzzle company out on the East Coast. And she said, "Hey, our puzzle company, it's a small little company. It's been going for 30 years.
They did hand-cut wooden jigsaw puzzles. Very niche.
And they said, we're having some troubles. Would you mind kind of consulting on some social media stuff or, how we can bring in new customers?" So we started to look at the business. The owner kind of wanted to retire.
He was 91 years old.
It was time for him to retire, and he wasn't quite sure how to do that without just shutting down the company and putting all his cutters out of work. So we saw an interesting opportunity to sort of pivot into another handmade craft.
Custom
craft. And so we, along with a business partner, we bought that puzzle company back in 2018. And we left California. We bought an RV. We went to Maine, and we lived in Maine for a few months on the ground, just sort of getting the new company set up. And we had to move.
And that's when the second edition of the Stitch People, DIY Stitch People, came out.
That's
same time.
Right.
Because we launched it from the RV.
We launched it from the RV. I totally forgot about that. We should go back and find that video.
That was fun.
From 5-6 years ago.
Yikes.
And the puzzle company went well, and we always meant to go back to California. The plan was to leave Maine, pit stop in Utah, kind of wrap up some things, maybe sell the house.
Which we did in 2019. Moved back in.
Yeah, we moved back into our house in
the
Utah
fall.
in 2019. And then COVID hit. And that's when we thought, well, I guess we're not going to California.
Moving to California was not a cool idea.
Yeah, that was not going to happen. And we enjoyed our backyard, and the dogs enjoyed the backyard. And so we thought, well, we'll stick around. And then
Stuck around.
We stuck around. We had some personal challenges, family members going through some pretty difficult health things that sort of took the wind out of our sails. And then we had the business partner relationship we had on the puzzle company went south.
Tricky, yeah.
And that was a very difficult thing for us. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about that, but it has informed a lot of changes to Stitch People that you may have seen, and it will continue to inform more changes over the years. Just because we learned a lot from that experience. We learned things like trust but verify, and we learned how to better spot turbulence. That's a great, yes. Turbulence in situations, turbulence in people, turbulence generally. Also, 2021, Lizzie wrote a TV comedy pilot. And we put together... Oh, yeah, she says. As though it's a blip on the radar. It is sort of a blip on the radar.
Well, it's blipping again, which is fun.
Yeah, so Lizzie wrote this pilot episode for a kind of a Schitt's Creek meets Arrested Development TV pilot concept, and we went out to Maine where we filmed it with a small little crew, and that was super, super fun. And ultimately, Lizzie does want to pursue, film and TV.
Yeah, that's always been the big dream.
Either from an acting side or from a producer side. So it was sort of a first cool opportunity to get our feet wet on a project that we completely ran. We could do it exactly how we wanted to do. I know, Alejandra, is there anything Lizzie can't do? No, there is literally nothing Lizzie cannot do.
I just like trying everything.
There is nothing she can't do.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, we're sort of both that way. We
outers.
We both have like broad skill sets, but Lizzie's goes deep in some of the creative and the design world. Mine goes deep in sort of the technical world, but other than that, it's very, very broad, for better or worse. But we also learned through that project, we had a bit of a personnel lesson on that one.
Yeah, more lessons in turbulence.
And between COVID, between the family health issues, between the turbulence with business partners and creative partners, it got a lot. It got to be overwhelming. Yeah. And we sort of naturally retreated. And you've
seen that.
If you've been around,
I've had a really hard time being on social media, especially the last 6 months. It was a big blow to have to say goodbye to Teresa and Julian. That was really, really hard because they've worked for us since 2017. And the frank business chat is that we could no longer afford to employ them. We just, with the economy and with crafting and things like that. And it's kind of nobody's fault in particular, but that was just really hard. And the, the grind, I don't know, I think we all probably go through ups and downs with social media. It's hard to just have that permanent scroll and you invest an hour into creating a beautiful reel that somebody might watch for 15 seconds and scroll by without even giving it a second thought. And that's, again, nobody's fault. That's just the nature of the thing and how it's set up to operate. And gosh, I just get depressed about it sometimes. And it's hard to constantly push that. And so, it just became something where it's like, we both have just kind of had to go inward because we sold the puzzle company. Did you mention that?
No,
part?
I did not. I did not mention that.
Earlier this year is when we finally decided we're spread too thin. And we always sort of felt like shepherds of that puzzle company. It never really felt like ours. It felt like we could do a lot by taking it on and help with getting things online and getting a social media presence and getting, things that we do for Stitch People, we could do for this little company. But we did always sort of feel like we were just looking for where to pass it next and found a really, really great and enthusiastic, buyer essentially for the puzzle company. So we did pass that off earlier this year onto its next leg of the journey, which is good. That, if you're curious, that company is called Elms Puzzles. So yeah, after we sort of that tied up, and then we had to say goodbye to Teresa and Julian, and then summertime hit, and we just went.
Yeah.
And we realized that was probably not healthy. And that's when we said, well, what if we did a play again? Because that's something we used to do before COVID. And when COVID hit, we had a lot of friends who were still trying to do shows, musical theater and plays and things like that. And it just, I mean, they would have to shut down and cancel performances because COVID would just rip through the cast. And we were like, no, thank you. No, so we just didn't. So there's this local theater near us where we actually met as teenagers. The last show we did there was in 2017, right before we moved to California. Then when we came back, we did another show at a different theater in 2019. But other than that, we hadn't done a play. And so this year, a friend of ours was in a show. We went and saw it and I was like, oh, that was fun. And we thought, what if we did a play? Because it would give us, I mean, especially we already worked from home and then getting in the habit of staying more at home because of quarantine and all of that stuff. We just got used to being homebodies. And then especially with the couple of personal blows and and professional blows, like we were just sitting at home a lot. And so we said, okay, what if we did a show? What if we did a play? Because then we'd have to be at rehearsals at 7 every night. Then we'd have performances. We'd be around a cast of people. We'd be social again. We'd have a commitment.
Just a forced out of the house.
Forced schedule. And it was really exhausting, to be honest with you. But it was really, really fun. And then that led to the director who did that play. We were Mrs. Peacock and Professor Plum in Clue, like the Tim Curry movie from the 80s. And we had a blast. It was so, so, so fun. And it was sold out before it even opened and audiences loved it. And then I offered to work with this director, same director. He did a new adaptation of A Christmas Carol, which I've chatted the Stitch People Club's ear off about. But that's what I've been up to the last 3 months. And Spencer helped out with that a little bit too. And Speedy Speed Speed, now it's 2024.
Yeah, and we want to sort of reset. Like we said, if you've been around since the early days of Stitch People, which over 10 years ago, if you've been around that long, you've seen sort of the ebbs and flows of our activity within the Stitch People community, especially on Facebook. And you may have wondered, like, where did Spencer and Lizzie go? And that's a very fair question.
Having a hard time.
And it really was. We got vulnerability hangover.
Yeah,
is really kind of what it was.
Yeah.
With the business and kind of creative partnerships that didn't work out, we got a little nervous.
And again, it was just life too.
And just life. So
family health stuff got scary, and then we had to help people move and get their house ready to sell, and just all these kind of emergencies back to back to back, and we just wanted to go away.
So first of all, thank you for your patience as we've worked through that.
A weird couple of years.
And we apologize that we haven't been more upfront about the need to pull back. It sort of happened naturally, and it sort of happened gradually, and we found ourselves very sequestered and very isolated. And like Lizzie said, that's when we thought, let's force ourselves to do something new and get out of the house.
Go do something.
Go do a play. And it was really,
contributing
really great.
Members of society and whatnot.
Overall, we do feel like both of us are sort of on the up and up, coming out of...
Made it through the wilderness.
Yeah, made it through kind of that rough patch. And not that there won't be more rough patches to come. We all,
that happens.
That's life. But we do feel like we've learned a lot, and we have thoughts about how we want to move forward.
Yeah, we've got some exciting things coming up for Stitch People.
And I would say the biggest one I want to talk about is actually not on this list. Talking about
very mysterious.
Yeah.
Wait, did we talk about we wrote down like some lessons that we've learned in all of this that we would love to share with you. So trust but verify is an interesting one, and that's like what we like about that. Somebody said that phrase. I can't even remember where that originally comes from, but the idea is to give people the benefit of the doubt and assume the best, and verify. So if somebody says, it's essentially why people put references on resumes, right? They say, I have all of these skills, and you can call these 2 people or these 4 people to verify that. And to do that, not only just with information coming in and out of your business, it's why people get multiple quotes for, have a couple plumbers over to fix the leaky pipe in your house. That the first plumber says, here's your problem, here's the price it's going to cost. Cool, thanks, sir. Appreciate you and your expertise. And you maybe have 1 or 2 more experts come over to assess the same situation. And that we're learning that in business, that's really important. in not only the logistical sense, but in the personal sense too, that, you know, if somebody says they have a certain skill set, great. Verify that. Another one thing, let's see. Oh, again, learning to kind of spot that turbulence, like learning, I don't want to say red flags necessarily, but for lack of a better phrase, you know, just in projects when things are going off the rails, or communication and things like that, just learning to spot things and trusting your gut when you know something isn't working. And I've learned to try to be more assertive sooner. I've always been like, oh, it'll go away, it'll get better, it's probably just a bad day, but I've learned to just need to bring things up. We also learned too many projects is not a good thing. That's why we let the puzzle company that needed to go, and we needed to pare back. And that's kind of the theme of 2024 too, is not paring back so much as just focusing, not taking on too many things. Because also these plays were really fun, but really, really took away from my Stitch People time because I got overwhelmed.
And creative juices generally.
Yeah. I've only got one creative well, I'm finding. Another one is challenging your assumptions as often as you can.
Yeah, this is one that down to assumptions that we had made about Stitch People, assumptions that we had made about the puzzle company, lots of assumptions. Yeah. We make assumptions just to survive in life.
For example, the latest Floral Motifs book, we made assumptions because the economy is hard, the crafting industry is down. We made an assumption that trying to make our products less expensive is what people want, and we just sort of assumed that as and maybe that is for some people, but after finding a printer where the quality of the Floral Motifs, I mean, I have it right here, it's not bad, but we don't have the spiral binding like we usually do, and the paper is not quite as thick and shiny. The cover's similar, but not quite as nice. I mean, it's a nice book. It's just not as nice as our books. And we got some feedback that people prefer the nicer books, even if it costs a few dollars more. So that was one assumption that we were like, oh, surprise. Okay, cool. So we're gonna fix that moving forward. Another lesson we've learned is making execution effortless.
This one comes from the book.
Is this Atomic Habits?
No. This is Greg McKeown.
Essentialism.
Essentialism.
It's a really good book.
By Greg McKeown.
Yeah.
Great book. And for some reason, I especially latched on to making execution effortless. Just the things that you want to do, make it easier to do them.
Yep.
For example, we have fruit sitting on the counter instead of like tucked away back behind other things.
Yeah.
If it's there, I will eat it.
Bought one of those 80-ounce like water bottles with it's like literally like this big, because large. I'll drink water if it's in front of me, but I get sidetracked and I don't go refill smaller water bottles. So I finally just bit the bullet and I got one of these giant water bottles that like all I have to do is drink it once. I don't have to refill it. If I drink the full thing that day, I feel great. We've made execution effortless.
Yeah, so we've tried to do more of that, and we're going to lean more into that as we go forward. And part of that is we've also realized that as far as work styles go, we work in creative bursts, and they are unpredictable, and they are unschedulable, and they are they're unknown.
ADHD.
Yeah, we both were diagnosed and have.
We're part of that COVID thing where I just saw Bluegrass Stitcher said it in the Air Force. We call it work smarter, not harder. Absolutely. Exactly. But yeah, in COVID, a lot of us got off of. The phrase I use is we got off of treadmills. Like we used to be in these routines of get up and do this and get up and do that, and you got to get the kids to school, and then you go to work, and then you come home, and like we sort of had these treadmills, and all of a sudden we all got thrown off like those funny videos where people just go right off the back. And a lot of us have not figured out how to make our own treadmills and our own routines. And that's like, ta-da, turns out without those systematic schedules and needs built in, it's ADHDville at our house. Yeah. So we're trying to embrace that instead of fight against it a little bit and just say, hey, creative burst, surprise, new book. Or something, because that's usually how they come about, is I have an idea and I'll work like crazy with steam coming out of my ears for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden we have a book, and then sometimes months go by and there's nothing. So we're just trying to own that, and we'll be communicative about that with all of you. as that comes.
It's another lesson that we've learned is communication is key.
Yeah.
We learned it with the business partnerships. We've learned it with each other a lot. And we do, and honestly, I feel like we've
gone in and out of being really good,
being really communicative with you, the Stitch People audience.
And we'll be better.
And we're gonna swing back that direction. Yeah. So to that point, do you want to start talking about like what's coming up?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
well, so one thing again, the mysterious thing that's not.
Oh yeah, your mysterious thing.
Okay, so
mystery man.
When you think of starting a business, you think, oh, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to grow the business, and then someday I may sell the business. Grow.
Wall Street quarterly reports.
And we did this during the pandemic.
It naturally did it.
It naturally sort of, there was a lot of momentum, and so we thought, well, let's ride that wave. Let's hire some more people. You may have seen Jen. I know Hillary's in the chat, and Hillary has helped us with some things.
Hillary!
So many people have helped us with so many things over the years. And we tried to find the traction that would sort of continue, and we never did. And I think part of that was our natural retreating. I think part of that was the economy. Part of that was COVID. All those different factors. It sort of went up and then sort of
that's
back
okay.
down. And that's okay. And it sort of made us reevaluate like what we want.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Lizzie
I've been playing with my tiny little cat paw.
She's been playing with this cat paw, and so she finally...
Because I got these. I'm going to be using them more on Instagram, because I just think they're so funny. These little cat paws. Hello!
You just, like, threw it down because you realized she was playing with it too much. I don't think so. I'll play with this
I also have, the tiny hands for it. Anyway.
Yeah, when you start seeing these pop up, that's why.
They're so stupid and funny.
Anyway, we always assumed that Stitch People would grow, and then maybe we would sell it someday to somebody, and
maybe we will,
and then be done with it. Especially when we sold the puzzle company, we were like, oh,
is this what we have to do?
Is this what we need to do for Stitch People? And ultimately, we've decided that like while that is an option, it's not our goal anymore.
Yeah, it was never the point.
The goal of Stitch People was always just to
facilitate creativity and help you make family portraits.
Yeah. And I think we honestly have lost sight of that a little bit over the years. And so we'd like to go back to that and not plan on selling the business. We just want Stitch People to continue to be what it is.
And also not everything needs to grow. Turns out, we're like, what if Stitch People is just what it is? And
okay, and like Rita says, it wouldn't be Stitch People without us, and that's very kind.
Rita,
that's very nice. And I mostly it's her, and I absolutely agree with that. And so as we thought about what would it look like, okay, so if we sold the company, we sold to DMC or we sold to Joanne,
and whoever would buy it,
someone who wanted to buy us. All the work and the love that we've put in and that we have for the community, like you can't replicate that. No. You just can't. It would be different. And we don't necessarily want it to be different. We like Stitch People the way that it is. We like the pace that it goes.
Yeah.
It is unexpected.
We're a little small party.
We're a small party. So
but an open house one. Come anytime.
Just so you all know, our goal is not to like grow and sell the company.
Yeah.
Our goal is to continue to put out really great quality products for you and help you become more creative yourselves.
And we've got a couple ways to do that. I know some of you on the email list and in the Stitch People Club have seen Spencer talking about like a rewards program, which... Well, ultimately, one of our biggest goals, and we've always liked Stitch People Day. We always like to celebrate the community when we do that in September. It's all of us working together. It's all of you guys. We always just sort of feel like we lead the charge, but otherwise it's like a really big group effort. And so we're wanting to we've come up with, and we will be expanding on ways for the community to continue to be more active and more successful, and for you in the community to benefit from the community at large. Like we've got this great following on Instagram, and we've got this great newsletter list, and we've got this great community on Facebook. And so we don't want to be like, that's our community. we all are the community. So a couple ideas that we've had is to do a rewards program, and that's like any, like your grocery store rewards or like Sephora rewards, where like when you spend money you get points, and when the points build up you get free stuff, and that's sort of like a working together stuff, because if we, you know, as the more everybody pitches in, the more everybody wins, kind of a deal. Another thing is, for those of you who are familiar with Discord, we're going to be starting, we don't have a date on it yet. We're sort of building it out. But we're going to be starting a Stitch People Discord server. And that's not going to be like a required thing. And we're not going to be supporting Discord. So if you're not on Discord, if you're not interested in it, don't worry about it. Yeah. Or give it a try, but you know, we'll just pass you to Discord customer support if you're having trouble with Discord itself. But Discord is just it's an app you can install on your phone, or a software you can, like an app you can install on your computer. I guess it's an app, and you sign up, you get a username, and you can join what they call a server. And what that would allow us to do is things that we've tried to do in the Facebook group, but have been really limited by, which is parse out subjects. And so we could have a customer service channel where specific questions could get asked. We could have the general. We could have a beginners channel. We could have an advanced. We could have our Freestyle Friday that we do going all the time. It's just in its own channel. The problem with the Facebook group is that
saying hi Laura.
Hi Laura. The problem with the Facebook group is that it's like one thread.
Just a mega thread.
A mega thread,
and
right?
We've tried like the chats and the
but not
things.
everybody has access to all the features all the time. Like, it's just a little limiting. And so we're going to keep the Facebook community for sure. That's not going away. But for those who are more social and want more of that, we'll do kind of like an overview of like getting on Discord if you want to, but we're going to do that. That'll help us have like regional chats. If people want to do like a New England Stitch People meetup or whatever, you can join the New England or the South or the whatever, you know.
UK.
It'll just really help us to facilitate more and more specific conversations. We'll have a channel for sharing your Etsy products. You know, if you have an Etsy shop and you released a new whatever and you want to share it with the community, awesome. Again, with the Facebook group, we just don't want that getting flooded with things that aren't the most helpful most of the time to most of the people. So that's why it's like we have to choose the broadest subjects of like, just keep it Stitch People related, keep it related to your portraits of what you're working on, because that's going to be the most helpful. But on Discord, you'll be able to share your Etsy products and share other products that are useful for you. And so that's going to be really between rewards and Discord. And we also are going to be developing more okay, so kind of in the style of our weekly Stitch Along last year, where we had all of you in the community submit designs for that. Like, how fun was that, getting to know each other through those designs? And a lot of people took new risks and made patterns for the first time, and they were all so good.
Kudos.
Like, I can't wait to I want to do a big I want people to submit their finished pieces so that we can put together like a big reel of all. It's so fun to see all those squares come together. So I think a lot of people found they really like designing. And so we're going to be putting out, instead of a free weekly thing, because weeks go by fast. And so I know I wasn't the only one. I think I'm stuck. My Stitch Along is still stuck back in like April or June. But
reference previous comments
about burnout,
creativity bursts,
getting overwhelmed.
The ADHD. The weekly thing turned out it was a bit tough.
I'm not a weekly kind of gal. But we are thinking that we'll be putting out calls for designs. So we might put out like a Stitch People springtime book. And if you have ideas for patterns, whether that's background elements or a little springtime motif or something like that, where we could put together a dozen patterns that you all have designed into a book, and then do a profit sharing on that. So like for every book sold, anybody who contributed a pattern to that will get, X amount of each sale. We want to do more that way so that there's more so that more of us are benefiting from Stitch People. And so for us, we realize that's less generation where like we're the ones making it and producing it and putting it out. But if we make it together and then funnel it through us, where I can put it into a book and make, a nice book about it, and then we have all our patterns, but the pattern is designed by Andrea or Hillary or Micah or whoever else puts in a pattern. And then we can all kind of reap the rewards, and it's kind of that like co-op model where we're all invested together. So that's kind of a few of the ways that we are thinking of even community-ifying things even more.
And to that end, before we have Discord set up and all that kind of stuff, if you have ideas for patterns, for products that you think would work well within that model of sort of a community-driven effort, email us.
Whether you want to participate in that or not. Right. But like we even talked about in the club, we've talked about when I don't know if they do it anymore, but in the 90s, it was really common to be like, hey, kiddos, go home and get your mom's favorite recipe and bring it to school. And then there would be like the Park Road Elementary School 1995 family cookbook, right? And somebody, you know, probably the secretary in the principal's office would make, you know, she'd put all, and we'd have the salads and the side dishes, and it would just be that. And so we've actually legit talked about a Stitch People cookbook would be really fun. But something, you know, like that. So if you have an idea and you're like, I would love to help design this, or I have no interest in designing, but I'd love to see such and such a thing.
I personally want to see if we did like a needle minder competition of some kind where you could like submit a like design for a needle minder, and then the community votes on it, and the top 3, like we produce them and we make them and we sell them. So stuff like that.
Ideas,
so
let us know.
Send us an email, info@stitchpeople.com.
Cross Stitch Revolution. Yes. Ooh, an ocean book. That is...
We've got
in the works.
We've got some stuff done.
That was the last thing that that Julian and Hillary too was really helping with that. We loved having Hillary on our team.
Okay, so other things that we want to do, the club. Let's talk about the club.
Oh yeah, we're gonna expand the club a little bit more.
The club. So for a lot of you who have been around for a while and you have most of the patterns or t-shirts, yes, we do want to get back into merch. Too.
Merch.
And buildings, skylines, we've got a lot of ideas. And part of the problem with all these ideas is that now that it's just back to 2 people, it's hard. Yeah. It's a lot of ideas and it's a lot of time to...
For example, the color card that I'd hoped to have done in the fall is still in process of being polished, because then we get a Stitch People, like a custom portrait order, which then I have to stitch, and you all know how long that takes, especially when you have 4 dogs and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people. And then, or a custom pattern, or, you know, things keep coming through that bump, and I'm the only one doing it. And so that's another reason we're like, hey, if we're working together as a community, and all I need to do is kind of make patterns consistent and put them into pretty page layouts instead of coming all up with it, that'll help expedite things. But yeah, it's anyway, sorry. Continue.
No. So we want to, so if you've been around, and especially if you would consider yourself one of the more creative stitchers and designers, you may not need the patterns. And so we're trying to find ways to serve you as well. And so that's sort of where the club came from. Like, let's do some instruction. Let's just
hang out, make it social.
So
give you the perpetual discount when you do want to buy things.
Yeah. Discount to the store. So in the past, we've done like 1 sip and stitch a month and 1 technique class a month.
And the pattern and the discount.
And a free pattern a month and a discount, a 15% discount on the store at all times. So that was sort of the club for 2023. 2024, we're going to keep the monthly sip and stitch. We're going to keep the monthly technique class, and we're going to add a design workshop. And the idea, so there will now be like 3 things happening each month, in addition to, again, the discount, the free pattern, all that. But the design workshop will be more... It'll be a mix between a sip and stitch and a technique class, where we'll probably ask for submissions, questions from you, like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this hairstyle. Could you help us out? And then the entire session will just be sort of working through some of those design problems in real time, watching Lizzie's brain do what Lizzie's brain does best, and
our brains together. The workshop is gonna be, so right now the sip and stitch is on Zoom, and the class is like we do our classes through Vimeo, where it's only chat. We're gonna do the workshop. It'll be like techniquey and designy and stitchy, but on Zoom, so that we can chat together and ask questions in real time. And if you have ideas that you want to pipe in, because sometimes during those design classes where I'm working through designs in real time, you know, we're getting feedback too. People are like, oh, I like that option better than this option. So the workshop's going to be a little bit of a hybrid.
Yeah. So that's coming up. So if you'd like to join the club, if you're not a member of the club, it's $16 a month. or you can pay $160 for an entire year's worth of membership. We're trying to add as much benefit to that as we possibly can. So if you don't feel like that is worth the cost, let us know. And if you have any suggestions for how we can increase that value, we'd love to hear it. I'm seeing a couple of things in the chat. As far as that color card goes, I know that we had talked about delivering that, I think, November. And with the floral motifs volume 2 that we got printed on the not so great paper.
The different printing
that's caused us to rethink a little bit how we're doing the portrait color card and also the realistic hair book that'll be coming in the spring. So that sort of pushed back the portrait color card at this point, and I'll send out sort of an official email to this effect, but at this point we're thinking we may just put the portrait color card off, at least the printed version, until the realistic hair,
which is we're on track for April 1st for that.
Yeah, we just had a great call with Giselle about
and
that
your
book.
Feedback on Instagram was helpful, and so we're solidifying those hairstyles.
So plan on getting the printed version with the realistic hair in the spring.
Yeah, but digital version should be within the next couple weeks.
Yeah, digital version, and the digital and the printed will probably be different.
Yeah, well, because the digital can only just be like a digital format. Yeah. But the printed version, we're hoping to have like swatches that you can actually use. So.
Yeah. So that's a little update on that. Another thing that I really want to do is I'm creating sort of a transparency portal. Data governance is becoming a huge thing. Just making sure that companies are using your data in a
ethical way,
and in a way that aligns with your values. And so things like, when you come to the website, tracking what you're looking at, if you've ever visited a website, looked at something online, and then you see that thing chase you across the internet, it's that genre of tracking that we want to get very specific and very clear on.
I would just want to make sure that you're in the mic enough.
Oh, sure. So I'm building that out, and I just want to be very clear with everybody and let you sort of opt into what you want and opt out of what you don't want. And we'll explain why the tracking is helpful for us and what we do with your data. With third-party vendors that we share your data with, we don't ever sell your data. So I just want to
explain what that means, because that sounds scary to people who don't know what that means.
Sure. So
we're not sharing your data. Like that sounds scary and weird. Yeah. And we're a tiny company.
And this is what I want the transparency portal to be, is to say, like, when you order from us, we know your email address and we know what you ordered. It's sort of like the loyalty card at your grocery store, right? You scan your little tag or you put in your phone number at the grocery store. They know now that you purchased all this stuff, and so they can send you emails to say, hey, it looks like you really like queso, and chips and queso.
Tostitos queso.
And so
it's on sale this week. So it's on Here's sale a coupon.
This week. We think you might like that. It's that sort of thing. And
the grocery store needs a software app that takes your scanned little rewards barcode and says, oh, Jane Doe likes queso, and the app will go, hey, Jane Doe likes queso and it's queso sale week, let her know. That's what Spencer means by third-party apps. It's not like we're selling your information to Google or Facebook. It's other small businesses that make data organization software that when we get your name and your email and we see that you like the floral motifs and that you've bought the maybe floral and embellishments and you bought floral motifs too, and that app can say, hey, this person really likes to add things to their portraits. It's not more people patterns, it's the extra patterns, so they might like backgrounds. And so we can reach out to you and say, hey, it looks like you like doing this with your portraits based on what you've bought. Here's $5 off or something like that. So that's what Spencer means about giving your information to other apps. It's just like the back end organization apps that help us.
Every small business does this. Truly.
Like the grocery store.
Does this. The grocery store, any online shop. If you run an Etsy store, Etsy sort of does this on your behalf. Everybody does this.
Yeah. When you're like, data insights about my customers.
Right. So we just want to make that more clear as to how we're using your data, because your data is important to you. It's important to us, and we don't want to misuse it in any way. So expect more on that. In a similar vein, we're going to start sending more emails. We haven't really been keeping up with our monthly newsletter, but we're going to pivot and sort of break out our emails into a couple of different lists. So like if you want to hear about promotions and sales, that'll be its own topic that you can subscribe or unsubscribe from. If you want to hear about new products, if you want to just hear about TV shows that Lizzie is watching and podcasts that she's listening.
Just like life updates.
Life updates. So we'll have a couple of different topics that you can choose if you want to hear about those or not. And we'll have a place on the website where you can, check and uncheck what you want to hear about.
Yeah, Christy says it creates a better curated experience for your customers. 100%. Yeah. And that's why it's sometimes good to opt into those things. Queso pattern run. We've got a lot of queso chat.
I love latching on to the queso.
I have a feeling I know what the February club pattern is going to be. Queso related. But so like Christy said, things like that create better experience for your customers. And if you would just rather be totally anonymous and like, I will choose what I want, I will find what I want, let the fates take me to the pages I need to go to, then that's fine too. I totally understand that. So anyway.
And then one of the last things.
Is just upcoming events. So, upcoming lots of things. So again, somebody asked about the color card. So let's see. Do I have my color card out here? I don't. It's okay. You don't have to get it. DMC has a color card with like, it's like a quadruple fold thing with like samples of, there's a printed one and one with real floss, and it has samples where you can see all the colors together. We're like, what if we did a Stitch People one that has, all the like hair tone or skin tone, hair color recommendations so that it makes it easier for you to see kind of all your options as you're designing your portraits and mix and match and put them together. So that's what our color card is. And initially I was thinking it would be like the DMC one, but then we did some polls and I'm actually thinking like paint chip swatches would be even better, that maybe they're on a ring and you can go through them like this and like take them off the ring and swap them around and see like this brown hair color with this skin tone, and are they too similar, are they different enough, that kind of thing. So we're working on that. Well, yeah, I actually I'll just grab a couple. I happen to have a box here. What I did is I went and got like all the neutrals, and I used a drill actually and foam board and photographed samples of this. So right now I'm in the process of color correcting, and that's one of the big things is screens are all different, monitors, laptops, desktops, anything like that. So what I take as a photo of a real life thing and edit on my screen so that the photo on my screen looks just like the real life thing. Depending on your screen settings, it might not look the same. So the digital color card is going to have a lot of disclaimer information about screen settings and things like that. But we're working with the printer to make sure that what is getting printed looks really true to life. And that's what's taking a while, because the whole point is color matching. So it really needs to look close. But so we'll have the color card coming out. We have the Real Hair Techniques coming out. We're working with Erica Coda, who's another one of our Stitch People ambassadors. She's Arca Coda on Instagram. She, if you follow her, does incredibly creative projects with Stitch People. And so we want to do a kind of a book with her that's a collection of what else you can do with Stitch People patterns and Stitch People portraits. So instead of just like stitchy, stitchy, stitch, hang my hoop on the wall, stitchy, stitchy, stitch, hang my hoop on the wall. Eric has made, she makes 3D portraits. She's made her own advent calendar. She's just really creative. So we're going to work with her. I bought little like game piece stands, and I'm going to do like little mini portraits because we were in Clue together. So I'm going to stitch up all the Clue characters, make like game pieces, and like
imagine a game of Guess Who, but like they're all
little cross stitch portraits.
Characters.
There you go.
That'd be fun.
And in that vein, if any of you are kind of nerdy or just like video games, so video games is something Spencer and I've gotten into in the last couple years. We bought a PS5 for the first time this last year because we were seeing the Hogwarts Legacy game, like when that was first announced. I was like, well, that's it. We're buying a PS5. And so we bought a PS5 and played Hogwarts Legacy, and it changed my life. And I stitched a little Hogwarts Legacy portrait for a friend for Christmas. I have to post that on Instagram. I'm very proud of it. But I also played Baldur's Gate. I don't know if any of you have heard of that game or played that game. That's going to be an event that we're going to do this year, is because that company specifically has a policy that, because things like video games get huge fan followings, and so this company has a specific policy for their characters that you can do fan art, you can use their intellectual property as long as you're not profiting from it. So what I'm going to do is develop patterns live that you can watch, and then I'll offer like stitch technique classes using those patterns. So it'll be like, come stitch Asterion with me, come stitch Gale with me, if you know who these characters are. So there'll be really great design and technique classes, but for those of us who are a little bit on the geeky spectrum, that'll be fun. We're going to be doing another house class for sure, like we've done. What was the idea? Somebody had a Halloween idea. Shoot, what was that in the club?
I can't remember.
And it was like, ooh, that would be a really good Halloween-y one. Shoot. If anybody from the club is watching and remembers what we talked about last club, I think it was the last Sip and Stitch. Because we thought, like, I've thought about doing a Valentine's Day gazebo, but we'd have to start that, like, right now. That's why we've never done it. I've thought about it for years, but it would mean planning during Christmas, which I forget to do. We could do, like, a little leprechaun hut in March. We could do an Easter or something. We did a summertime beach bungalow last year. We've done a Halloween cottage, gingerbread house, Christmas nativity. So there's a bunch of stuff we could do. Thought about doing like a New Orleans style haunted mansion that is its own thing for no reason other than New Orleans has beautiful architecture. And how crazy would it be if there was a New Orleans haunted house mansion?
Was that the idea? Was that the Halloween?
No, but we've thought about it. So yeah, so if you have any fun house ideas, we also might do a magical castle one. And that sort of like the beach bungalow, it was like you could choose the one that you wanted to do. If you want to follow me, I'll be using this image. But if there's like a princess, like a specific princess castle that you and your family have visited in Florida or California that you would want to stitch with real techniques, we could do a princess castle, couldn't we just? Or we could do a witch and wizard's castle if you like that. We could just do a really generic multi-turreted witch and wizard's castle together for techniques. So anyway, just some ideas for this year. We've got Ocean's Patterns. We'll be finishing those up. TBD on when, probably in the first quarter of the year. Let's see, what else? We've got the color card. We got Real Hair Techniques with Giselle coming out. That's going to be such a good book.
Barbara asked about the spring fling. I assume we'll do another spring fling.
Yeah!
And she asked if it would be house related. And
so we could.
We'll continue to do live events.
Yeah.
We'll continue to do.
And we'll do a lot of polls and get your input. Because Spring Fling, things that we thought people liked about it, again, we challenge our assumptions. Like we would put together these big old swag bags, digital swag bags of like discounts here and there to other people. And people didn't like care. Not that they didn't care. Some people really liked them, but what people liked was the patterns, or what people liked things about the Spring Fling more than we thought they would and less than we thought we would. So anyway, so part of us is like, do we need to do events like that? Or can we just parse out, instead of bundling 3 or 4 classes into an event, do we just spread those classes out and then you can mix and match what you want to do? Anyway, we're going to be playing around a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm also going to play around with the website. With the rewards program, that's going to add some interesting sort of complexity to the website. And I know that there are some outstanding bugs and things that I need to take care of, and I will take care of all that. I want to really make the website fast and easy to use. And along those lines, I had another thought. Where did it go? Well, there's the ADHD for you. It's just gone.
Getting a lot of house-related ADHD. Or ADHD. There's my ADHD going. House-related Spring Fling. All the wires in my head. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's coming up this year. And but yeah, well, thank you for watching. We've had a ton of you watching this whole time and really appreciate you all. Jen Brant joined. Hi, Jen. Jen was a really, really great member of our Stitch People team for year and a half. Man, yet another one of our shining stars that helped us get to where we are. Yeah, we could do ADHD patterns, just like sayings that never finish. That are like
patterns that just trail off.
Life is like a house that you ... Just because that's where my brain would go. We stopped doing our Snarky subscription and our cat portrait subscription, just because I think for as much as they were fan favorites to see online, they actually didn't get a ton of interest month to month. We'll put out more Snarky patterns and cat patterns, just not subscription style. We'll just like every once in a while add to those. We are still doing our literary subscription, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of the year ahead. Thank you so much for
Questions about
watching.
the
And
podcast.
oh yes, podcast. That was one of those things. What was up here where it's like we just too many projects. Too many projects is not good. So the podcast, I put a pause on it just because oh man, it was just a lot, because it was not only, I loved having these one-on-one conversations with people, but then we'd have to get the podcast mastered, and I'd have to record the intro and outro, and then I'd have to make all the graphics for social media, and then make all the graphics for YouTube, upload it to YouTube, re-edit it so that it could go onto YouTube, and cut out chunks to put for reels for Instagram. And so having a 1 hour lovely conversation with a Stitch People community member turned into an 8 hour commitment for mastering and graphics and planning, and just became a little bit crazy making on the back end. So we're trying to figure out how we can do that moving forward. Maybe we just go live or something.
I was going to say, one thing that we want to play with, there are some software applications I want to use that will let us like live stream to multiple places at once.
YouTube and Facebook and Instagram.
YouTube, we can live stream to Instagram Live.
All at once.
From kind of a single place, because right now we have like our Facebook feed and the Instagram feed is technically separate, but if we can find a way to get all those going through one place, and that software would let us then have like guests on, so people could like call in,
that'd be
and
fun.
say hi. And if we just go live and we don't worry about the mastering, we don't worry about the editing,
maybe make it more of a YouTube thing instead of a
maybe that's
podcast
the solution. But I personally loved listening to all the conversations with Lizzie.
And I'm glad that you liked it too. Thanks for asking. That makes me feel good. I'm like, yay, at least it was good. But yeah, it was just that of all the things that we could kind of give on, that was like, we're just gonna pause on that for a second, until we get in a better groove with, posting consistently to social media again and communicating with you better and all of that we've been lagging on. So anyway, if there's any, let's see, combining techniques, Stitch People Blackwork. That's a great idea, Chris. Oh, Sam. Hey, thanks. I'm really glad for that. Teamwork, huh? Teamwork makes the dream work. And thanks to all the happy. So Sam said the podcast got me through a horrible job situation. Listened to it while working and it made me happy. So, that's really nice. And so thanks to all the guests who shared their stories and made that interesting and fun for Sam.
Yeah, Mike at Twitch allows multi-streaming. So
yeah, we're gonna be on.
We'll look
getting
at Twitch,
on Twitch.
We'll look at Discord. Just sort of try to make it easier to be seen.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's probably gonna be a lot more casual, so that it can be more regular. Because kind of like I just explained with the Stitch People podcast, we've always been, with my background in graphic design, like I always really wanted like the covers of our books to look like really nice and professional, and so anytime we do something like a podcast or an event, or if we're going to go live, like I want to make a cover image and I want to make sure the graphics look good, and it just adds all these layers of time to it. And so I might just like pop on Instagram Live more while I'm stitching or doing something. Like I'm trying to change my mindset so that I can be more visible without it like feeling so official when I am. And that's like, even with the club, I appreciate all you club members, because that's been really good practice for me, where I've been able to like show up without makeup for a thing. Like usually I'm like, well, I've got, because my background's in acting, so I'm like, I gotta be camera ready, and like we're going live, I gotta get out the mascara, or else people I don't know won't know who I am. I don't know why I feel the need to do that. But anyway, so the club has been really good practice, because we'll just like hang out one night. If I'm in a sweatshirt and haven't put on makeup that day, it's like whatever, that's what I am that day. And so that's been really fun. And so I'm gonna try and be a little bit less with my own personal expectations about what it takes to just like hit live on Instagram or something. So yeah, so hopefully we'll just be hanging out more, which will be fun.
Well, I mean, we're at an hour.
I know,
so
that I can't, just the time flies. Thanks for hanging out and watching, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your support.
For watching today. Thank you for your support over the years. Thank you for your patience with us. And just know that we are
committed
to Stitch People.
Yeah.
Always will be. And
we really appreciate you all.
What form that takes, we're going to let that be flexible.
Yeah.
And we're going to let that be community driven, and we're going to let that be we're going to let that work with our sort of creative burst work styles. So thank you for everything. If you have suggestions or comments or questions, shoot us an email. That's the best way to get in touch. It may take a few days for me to get back to you, because I'm answering all the emails. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your support, and thanks for being the best community on the internet. We really appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll say ta-ta for now, and we'll see you around the internet. Bye, everyone. Thank you.